Good rice takes time and good rice takes preparation, but it's always worth eating good rice. The thing about rice is it has a quality for a start. Basmati rice can be aged a really long time and you can get all sorts of length of grain. We live here in Margaret River. Choice is really limited. I do get the best basmati that I can. The difference between basmati and a jasmine or a sushi rice is obviously the length and the delicacy of the grain. Now, the more aged the rice, it will actually take on like a yellowed character and become even more fragrant. So that's the gold standard. The way that we start is rinsing. You want to put it into a big bowl where you've got room for the water to move. Rinsing serves a couple of functions. One, it's going to clean the rice of any pebbles or gravel or anything like that that's in there, but two, it's going to remove some of the starch. So you can see that with the water, how opaque that is. That's starch and dirt. Starch is a blanket on flavour. So starch essentially creates a barrier between your palate and sweeter, softer, more nuanced aromatics. And so when you're coming to rice, what you want to do is remove that layer of starch so that underneath that, all the beautiful sweetness and delicacy in the rice becomes accessible for your mouth to experience. And it's worth taking the time to do this well, like 5 or 6 times. So at this point, you would be leaving this rice to soak. Rice blooms in the same way that you talk about a flower blooming. So rice that's been soaked, and I'm talking the 12 to 24 hours, its fragrance and its aroma becomes more forward and more accessible. Has a totally different look and feel. You can see how it's plumped up, it's softened, but this is much tighter. You won't get to taste it at its best. I'm gonna fill this water up. So you want a pot that's big enough for the rice to move really freely. This is not the absorption method. The thing about having the rice move through the water freely is that it's not going to coagulate and get soggy, basically, and heavy, which is the worst 2 things that rice can be. Okay, so on high with the lid on. You can use the absorption method. The only thing is, Mum and Dad always used this method until I left home, and then they learned how to do the absorption method, so I missed out on that bit of education. But this is fail-safe. It's really easy to do. It's just time and it's forethought. If you forget to soak the rice overnight or in the morning, just any time at all, like get home from work, soak it for half an hour, every bit of that time will make a difference to the end result. Rice water's boiling away. You've got to strain this water out because this has all the starch in it. I mean, you don't have to be manic about it, but just as much out as you can. And then this goes into the pot. Now, I don't really time it. What I'm looking for is for the water to come back to a boil. You'll see that what happens is that as the rice cooks, it starts to move through the pan, it floats. So see the texture and the colour? It looks cooked. And you can still see, so the white bit in the middle is the rice grain that's still a little bit hard, so it hasn't been softened by the water. A little bit of that's okay. So what you want to do is just taste it, and that's kind of almost perfect to me. You want it to taste like you want it to eat. So if you have your first taste of it and it feels too hard, keep cooking. This is 3 minutes and it's done. Once it's done, turn off the heat, and the next step is that you want to strain the rice and then steam it dry. I always start my rice at the beginning of my meal, and then it'll sit there resting almost like a meat while I'm finishing to prepare. Nice and steamy, and already that looks good, but it's not finished. And then pop the lid back on and just leave it like that. It's going to stay like that for about 20 minutes, and we'll come back to you and I'll show you. Okay. So this is the rice. So you can see, once you take it out of the pot, how fluffy it is. It's standing up like a hedgehog. Yeah. So this is what happens when you've soaked it and rinsed it and spent time in water and then cooked it really beautifully and then steamed it, is you get this rice that literally is separated grain by grain. And the taste of it, it's like popcorn. You can feel it in your mouth. You can feel how separated each grain is and just how perfectly to bite. And all of the aroma of the rice is right there. And that, in and of itself, is just perfection. Worth the effort. Yum.